Welcome to the ACT checklist guide. In this video, we are going to show you exactly how to prepare for your workshops using the ACT tools. For the first step, we are going to create a game session. This is where you define what games you'd like to play, what the general settings for the game should be, and everything needs to be prepared in here in order for you to run your workshop. The first thing we need to do is log on to an ACT subscription. I have opened my very own one here. I am going to log in with my credentials. After that, I need to find the Sessions tab on the left-hand menu. You can click this little arrow right here to expand the menu, and then we can view the sessions list. Clicking the sessions list will take me to an overview of all the different sessions that I have previously created. If I want to create a new one, I simply hit the Create Sessions button up in the upper right corner. The first thing I'm asked to do is put an ID for my session right here. We generally recommend that you put in something rather short, something that your participants will be able to put in themselves if they're not able to use a link to access your session. I will put in preview 2205 26. Simple as that. The next thing I need to define is a start and end date for my session. If you need to have this session be time restricted, you can put in something here, but otherwise just leave it as is and it will be available for as long as your subscription is open. Here I can limit the amount of players in my session. If I wish to conserve some of my seats, I could put this to, let's say, 20 players in my session, and then it would only allow up to 20 players to join that session. Bear in mind that it's a good idea to put in some extras here because you might have additional people attending that you weren't expecting, and it's better to be able to onboard them immediately rather than go and edit your session afterwards. I can put in a description or a description for the administrators. These would be descriptions that the players or the other super users on your platform would be able to see. But for now, I'm just going to leave these empty. I then hit create session, and now we have an empty session with no games or tools in it. Naturally, the next step is to add a module. And up here, you can select from 3 different tabs. The first and most prevalent one is the Add Game tab. We then have add file or video. Here you can upload documents or videos or whatever you'd like for your players to see. And finally, you can add extra ACT tools like the Change Live or the Change Meter. I'm going to create a fairly simple session right here where I'm just adding a game. I click Add Game. I am then going to select one of these games. And it's a good idea to get acquainted with the games using the Games tab up here before you start creating your session. If you are familiar with the games already, if you know exactly which games you'd like to run in your workshop, there's no point in doing that. You just go and select the game that you want. If you are looking for a bit more information, you can always click the See Details button right here on one of the games, and it will give you a description of that particular game. I imagine that I'm going to run a workshop lasting for 2.5 hours, so this would actually be a very beneficial game. It speaks of Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and I think that that would be suitable for my game session. So I'm going to add this game as a module to my session. Click the button here, and now I'm asked to select a game mode. We will get back to the game modes later on in the checklist, but for now, you need to know that there are 3 different ways of playing. The first one is play on your own. Here, each login makes up its own group. People can still play in groups if they have their own computers with them. You could have 3 to 5 people sitting around just one computer, and that could make up a group. People can, of course, also play on their own. So if you have a big group of people or a shorter game, it would be a good idea to just log all of them in and they can just play at their own pace. The second play mode is the battle mode. It works roughly in the same way as play on your own. The main difference is that in the battle mode, players are able to see the points of the other team. So if you have a highly competitive group of people who would like to compete against each other in these games, it's a good idea to go with the battle mode. Finally, we have the team challenge, and this is the one that's the most suitable for groups where you really want to get into the gist of it and have some discussions between the players. In this game mode, each and every group member, they log in with their own PC, and then they need to select individual options before they make a group decision. So you still arrange people into groups, but they all log in and they can read at their own pace. They can select options at their own pace, but there is a game master who needs to select the group decision based on the discussion with the rest of the group members. I imagine that I'm going to run this game as a team challenge. So I'm going to click the team challenge button right here. Next, I'm told to define how many groups I want in my game session. And in this case, I would like to have 5 groups playing. So that would mean 3 to 4 people in each group. And for testing purposes and to just make sure that I have everything I need, I can be a little flexible and switch the groups around as need be. I am going to add 2 more groups than the 5 that I was originally planning for. Group 7 could have a custom name like test group. And this would then be the group that I can enter just to make sure that everything is all right before I start playing. So now we have the 5 groups that I want people to join. I have a 6th flex group, and finally I have my very own test group. Once I'm satisfied with the number of groups and the names of each of the groups, I can then hit the add button down here. Now I have a game session consisting of just 1 game. I can add multiple games if I so wish to. If you're going to run a bigger workshop where you're going to visit multiple games, you can just add them to the same session. But in this case, I'm just going to stay with 1 game. The last thing I need to do before I get started is I need to hit the Finalize Session button up here. In the upper right corner, you might be able to see that it says not ready with a red little dot right here. If the session is not finalized, your participants will not be able to join your game session. So it's important that you hit the Finalize Session button right there. And now the game is tagged as ready in the upper right corner. If I go back to my session list, I can then see my session right here. It's tagged as ready. There are 20 seats. If I click the host view, I can see the 5 Lencioni behaviors right here. The last thing I need to do is prepare the link for the session if you need to use that. So you click on the Share Session button right here, click Copy Link for Session, and now I've generated a link that I can put into my browser, and I can share that with my participants so they start playing. I can also share the invitation via email if I have the emails of the players already at hand. Or I can share the session with them if I have a face-to-face workshop, like I imagine I would have in this particular case. I can share with them the session ID. So the preview 220526 would be the session ID in this case. And if I just copy this, log out of the system, I'm able to enter a session ID when I attempt to log on to the system. If I put it in here, hit join, enter a guest name, I'm then able to join the session as a participant using only the session ID instead of the link. This was a very quick fly-through of how to create your sessions and how to make sure that everything is working as intended before you get started. Make sure that your session is finalized and you have all the right groups or number of seats available in your session before you go.